Hi guys, it's Paula and I hope you are doing well. This is going to be my 1 month update for The Experiment. This is a collaboration I am doing with my friends Jessica and Amanda. I will have their channels linked down below. Today is actually February 1st when I am recording this. I am trying to pre-record this on like the last day of the month or the first day of the month every month for consistency's sake. I don't want to explain the entire experiment again. So if this is your first video of mine, I'm going to link the introduction to this project up in the card so that I'm not repeating the whole thing again. But basically, in summary, Jessica, Amanda, and I are testing out to see how long it actually takes to use up makeup in the categories of lip products, eyeshadow, highlighter, and blush. There. Here's what I did. After the introduction in January, the calculations I had gotten for each product was based on a frequency of using these for a specific amount of time. So, for example, for blush and highlight, I said that I would use them 6 days a week, twice a day, and it gave me what a year's worth of product looked like. Rather than saying, okay, I'm gonna wear these products 6 days a week, 2 times a day, I calculated how many days there were in the month and removed the Sundays so that I would just keep taking out the Sundays for every month. So for January, there's obviously 31 days in the month, but when you take out the Sundays, there's only 27 days in the month, and I multiplied that by 2. So for blush and highlight, that came out to the number of 54. So I had to use these products a minimum of 54 times during the month. Now for blush and highlight, I layer a cream, blush, and highlight, and then place a powder, blush, and highlight on top of them. So that's why I'm able to use those products so many times in a month. I had decided early on that I would allow myself to go over because there might be later months in the year when I get under, and so I'd have some days banked for the overall end of year amount. My goal is to get this amount added up by December. So there's a checks and balances system going on here that makes sense in my head. I think it makes sense to everybody. But anyways, I'm allowed to go over, but I have to track how many times I go over and bank it. And then at the end of the year, if I hit my total amount for the year, I stop. Also, I decided not to track how many times I used each specific product. Rather, if I used the products that I put in this project so many times, it counted. So I can't say how many times I used this versus how many times I used this. But collectively, as a whole, I met my goal for my overall blush category. So right now, I'm not as much focused on how many times I used these specific products within each category, but the category as a whole. Okay, for blush, I have one cream product. It is the Maybelline Dream Bouncy in the shade Peach Satin. I use this basically I use this every day. I think I only had one non-makeup day at all in the month of January. One day where I did not put on any makeup and just went barefaced. So I probably used this specific product a total of 30 times during the month of January. So it was brand new. It's looking a little roughed up now, but there is still obviously an absolute ton of product. I used the Too Faced Love Flush in Justify My Love a few times. Again, these products were all basically brand new. That's how this experiment is validated, because they're all brand new products at the start of the project. So still looks pretty new, but I did use it a few times. I think I used my loose blushes a couple of times, maybe 2. I'm not really focusing in on these. The powder blush that I used the most frequently during the month is the one that's in my Pan That palette, and that is this one right here. And yeah, I think it's looking used. It still looks full, but used. So that's where I am with the blush. That's a huge category. That is a ton of blush. We'll see. But I did use them a total of 57 times collectively during the month of January. So I hit my goal of 54 and went over by 3. For highlighter, I had the same goal, 54 times of usage. For this category, I have 2 cream products. This Trustique highlighter stick, my my Becca sample highlighter in Opal, and one powder product, this L'Oreal Lumi powder. I use this Becca one the most frequently because it's in a second project. This is also in my 2020 Vision project pan. So, so I would like to use this one up first if I can. I have definitely gotten some good use, some shockingly good use out of this in the last month. My Trustique crayon is getting a little bit flatter. This is it all the way rolled down, and this is it all the way rolled up. There's not a ton of product in here. Here, I'm going to roll it down to the top of the plastic. So there's not a ton of product in here, but it's a chubby little highlighter stick. I really like both of these products and I'm enjoying using them. But again, I've just kind of prioritized the Becca one because it's in my 2020 Vision project pan. This L'Oreal powder highlighter has gotten the most consistent use because it's the only powder highlighter, so I've used it almost every single day. The last couple days of the month when I hit my goal, I gave it a rest and worked on a highlighter that's in my Pan That palette. But I've been focusing my brush right here, and I think you can see that's the area that is the most roughed up. This kind of peachy champagne toned highlighter is probably one of my favorite shades, and with it being winter, it's the best. It's probably the most flattering on my skin as well. In the summer, when I have more of a tan, I will feel more comfortable just swirling the brush around without giving it too much thought, but for now, my brush stays right here. I am nowhere near hitting pan on this or finishing it, but I am using it and I met my goal, so. Let's move on to lip products. There are only 2 lip products in this project because one of them is a big one. I had a goal to use these 2 products 81 times, and I actually used them 83 times, so I met my goal, and I have 2 times in reserve for a future month when I might be a little bit behind. This Trustique lip pencil or lip crayon is in the shade Belize Bordeaux. It is a beautiful pinky color. It's what I'm wearing on my lips. I'm very, very happy with the color. I didn't think it was gonna look like that when I saw it in the tube. I thought it was gonna be more like warm toned, but I actually am in love with this shade. And although I didn't use this a ton, I'm enjoying using it. The one that I used the most, probably 76 out of the 83 uses were in this product. This is a lip balm from Victoria's Secret. It's in the shade Pink Sugar, and I have a huge dip going on. This was brand new at the start of the project, obviously, and you can see it is getting a ton of use. Sometimes I look at it and I think, is that 1/12 usage of this product? It's hard to tell, but I don't think that's 1/12 usage. I don't think this is gonna be gone by December 31st, but we will see. All right, the last category is eyeshadow. I put in 14 eyeshadow singles into this project, 9 of which are in my Pan That palette for 2019 already, and they are the 9 circular pans right here. And then 5 additional eyeshadows that I just put in this smaller magnetic palette right here. Out of this palette alone, there are 3 eyeshadows that I've gone to over and over and over in January, and I'm absolutely loving them. And it is this shadow, and this shadow. This is Coca-Cola by Makeup Geek, this is Shimma Shimma by Makeup Geek, and this is Corey by MAC. I love all 3 of them. Corey has been my go-to lower lash line eyeshadow. Shimma Shimma has been a brow bone highlight, and Coca-Cola has been my outer V and crease shade. And part of me kind of wishes I could just move these 5 shadows into my Pan That palette, because I feel like I'm getting more use out of some of these shadows than I am in my actual Pan That palette. But at the same time, I really don't want to monkey around with my Pan That palette. I like it the way it is, and I want to keep it. But you can see that because of this experiment, I'm using Shimma Shimma every day, then I'm not using this highlight shade, this highlight shade, this highlight shade, or this highlight shade nearly as consistently as I thought I would before these projects kind of all came together. Coca-Cola up here is a lot like this red shade. This shade by my finger up here is Swiss Chocolate by MAC, and that looks a lot like this shade I put in my Pan That palette. And Cocoa Bear right here from Makeup Geek looks a lot like a combination of these two shadows. So therein lies the problem. I am having a panning dilemma because some of the shadows I put in this palette to use are not getting used as consistently as I was hoping to because of the experiment. It's fine, it's just makeup. It's not that big of a deal. We'll get on with life, but it is going to impact my progress on my Pan That palette, which is unfortunate. Obviously, once I hit my goals for the month, I can work across my Pan That palette more freely without having to worry about the numbers. But I want to be accurate with this so that at the end of the year I could say, I use this and met my goals, and this is where I'm at. My goal for the eyeshadows overall was 108 eyeshadow applications over the month. That's 6 days a week, 4 times a day. And I met that goal exactly. Yesterday, I hit 108 exactly. It was down to the wire. I think I'd had a lot of days early on in the month where I only used those specific 14 shadows 3 times a day. And then I was playing catch up at the end of the month. Obviously, I have been using 4 shadows a day. It's just not necessarily 4 of the 14 that are in this project. So I mentioned in my Pan That palette update a week ago that this Dusty Rose shade has been my MVP. I've used it day in and day out every single day. I absolutely love the shadow, but it's not part of the experiment. So for the experiment, I have to use 4 of the 14 shadows that are in this specific project every day. And that's a little tricky. I can do it, but it takes a little bit more effort and thought. There are days where I just want to do a simple 2 shadow look and I'm like, uh-oh, that's not going to meet my goal. And I got to get to my goal. It's a lot of fun, but it's also a little tricky and a little bit of work. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just pointing out the pros and the cons of this project and the thought process that goes into staying valid with the experiment and my mission. I think mission's a little bit of a strong word for this little makeup project, but you get my point. I'm trying to be accurate with the numbers, and so to do that, I sometimes have to be a little bit more consistent than I'm used to being, and it's forcing me to really think about things like, oh, did I use my eyeshadows 4 times today? Uh-oh, better find a way to throw another one in. Another thought that I keep having about the eyeshadows is maybe I'm using 4 shadows a day, but I'm using them less than if I would have just taken one of these shadows and blown it out all over my entire eye. Like if I just did a 1 shadow look with a shadow like, let's say Corey or Cocoa Bear, one of those mid-tone neutral shades, and just applied it from my eyelashes to my brow bone and underneath my eyes, I would get more use out of that 1 shadow than if I use 4 shadows in a look. Because like if I'm just using this on my lower lash line, I'm not getting a ton of use out of it. So I don't know, that kind of stuff makes me scratch my head about like how this is all valid, but whatever, it's all for fun, right guys? It's all for fun. So that is my first update on the experiment. Please go check out Jessica and Amanda. I haven't really talked to them about how they're tracking this or how they're like what their system is for this. So I'm really curious to see what system they developed for this project, because we kind of went our own ways as far as how we're going to do this. And this is just the system that I created. I don't know what system Jessica and Amanda are using. So I can't wait to see their videos and their updates and what they're doing. Like I said at the beginning, I will have their channels linked down below. Please go check them out. Tell them I sent you. Subscribe to their channels. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.